أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فقال ربكم ادعوني أستجب لكم آمين يا رب العالمين الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين اللهم اجمع شامل المسلمين والكريستيان واللومد في مدينة داباو، وسلم دائما مجتمعنا هذا بالسلم والأمن والتقدم في بلدنا هذا، آمين يا رب العالمين. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. ربنا إنك أنت الوهاب. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. وصلى الله على خير خلقه سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. آمين يا رب العالمين.
In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you today to praise and worship you and give you thanks for all the things you continue to provide for ourselves and our families. Father, we humbly ask for forgiveness for all the times we have offended you, when we forget to acknowledge your presence in the image of our brothers and sisters, and for moments we fail to be good stewards of the blessings you have given us. Continue to guide and protect each one of us, Lord, that we may always walk in the lights of your everlasting love and mercy. Grant us, Father, with your comfort in times of distress and with your strength in times of weakness. Bestow upon us your unending grace and healing, that we may in turn become instruments of gentleness and compassion to others. We ask all this in the name of your Son, our Lord Jesus Christ, with the prayer and the intercession of our Blessed Mother. Amen.
Okay. I hope I'm loud and clear for everyone. So, first of all, good evening to everyone. Good evening to our members here at the G-Meet. Good evening to our live stream viewers out there. This is Kyle Aaron Montebon, and I'll be your host for tonight. Today, we are in our day 2 of our Flutter Study Jams. This being the year-end event of the DSC UIC Club. Now, in this second day, what we're going to talk about is something that is important in Flutter Development, which is state management. And to guide us through how to manage your states properly in Flutter, let us call in our speaker for tonight. He is the lead of Flutter Philippines. Let's call on Joshua de Guzman. Close. Yes.
Close this tab. Okay. Okay. Yeah, like first of all, thanks Kyle and the entire UIC team for inviting us, no, to give a workshop in the future. Okay, not sure if where's my mouse. Okay, okay. So let's define what a state is. So as mentioned earlier, like this is part of our application that represents the data or the information that is available in our app. So for this example, like you can see there's a bar chart, pie chart. These are all data and information that a user is interested in seeing.
Excuse me, sir.
Mhm,
Let me just interrupt you for a little while.
mhm.
Can can you unmute yourself in OBS Ninja?
Oh, great. Am I don't
Yeah,
think.
you weren't audible.
Yeah, I don't think. I'm. I think I'm muted on. Yeah, not
Okay.
sure. Can you guys double
Okay.
check on the last screen?
Yeah, it's all good now. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I think they're both. Yeah. Let me just try to unmute the screen sharing one because that shouldn't. Yeah. Okay. So right now, okay. Let me continue. Okay. It's lagging a bit. Uh, so the OBS Ninja's lagging a bit. It's kind of.
Yeah.
Let, yeah. Yeah. Right now it's. Don't worry. Like we can still continue. Right now it's
All good.
just
It's all good na po, by the way. Thank
okay,
you, sir.
okay. Sige, sige. Right now I can I can just switch back to my presentation. I think it's lagging a bit. Mhm. Right, no worries. Like maybe I can stop sharing first. Oh, right now I don't have any access. Yeah, I think yeah I can't force close this for some reasons. Hmm. I think yeah last Do you mind if we try to just probably reboot my laptop first? Like I tried rebooting it earlier, but not sure I cannot access any from it. Exact slide, no? Like yung practical state management. Okay, sige. Right. Yeah, I'll just start again. And hi everyone. Thanks for coming sa workshop, no? Like hopefully this time around, okay na yung setup natin. So at least for this workshop, no, one of our motivation is to learn or understand what provider is and what it offers, no, as a state management tool for building Flutter apps. So our agenda goes right our way. Understanding what a state is and not backing up importance is state in terms of building an application. I should just not probably be concerned sa UI, but yeah, now like discuss what state is, challenges. These challenges I not break. I gave two examples in here. These are two most commonly encountered, um, or most common challenges no, na encounter ng isang Flutter dev or even an experienced engineer trying to no, switch and try Flutter. And third is no, just understand what are the APIs or how provider works, and we'll see how we can use provider as an immediate state management tool for Flutter apps and some live practical examples during the live coding session. So before we can even understand what a state management is or what provider is, let's try to see what specific part of the software engineering or Flutter development is provider really concerned. So state, everything that you see in the app, the data, the charts, even the pie charts, the labels, all these are information, and these information are the things that a user is interested to see in your application. So, for example, they are using your app because you're probably giving them the latest updates on the stock market. You're probably giving them the latest updates, what their friends are doing. And if you'd like to try to think of what state is, just think of state as the data or the information that is seen or used by your app to to handle the logic, the UI that you're going to show in your app, and the data that you are going to display to the users. And oftentimes now there are a lot of description what the state is on multiple programming languages, toolkits, but we can just simplify the explanation of what the state is. See, since Flutter, again, state is just the data that represents the current state, meaning like if it's currently logged in, authenticated, what are the specific widgets now that I have to show to my users. So if I'm logged out, probably I'll be showing a walkthrough screen instead of showing him the homepage. And this data or state can be represented in a form of a simple data or complex object. So simple data meaning a Boolean, maybe we can use a Boolean is authenticated flag, or a simple string, a simple double variable, up to complex objects. Or complex objects can either be a map object, a JSON object. Map object has key value pair, JSON object, and set, and a lot more. So these can all represent what a state is in your app. And last but not the least is, since you're dealing with state for I think at least for the entirety of your application, then you should know how to manage your state properly. And that's what we're about to learn now in this workshop. So state management. So what is state management? What's the difference between state and state management? Well, it's very straightforward. State management is, if state is the data, state management is the process or technique to tell how you can model or how you can manage this data or information of your application. So maybe that's kind of like the verb for the state. And in state management, we only have two types. We have local and global. So at least for the local state, these are the things that you store locally in your specific widget or in a specific screen. So for example, if you're just using set state and the changes only needs to be reflected with that specific part of the feature of your app, then that could be considered as a local state. And the only difference with the global state with a global state is that global state handles data that can be shared across multiple features of your application. So for local state, if it's only concerned on the authentication, then use that specific business logic part of your application for authentication related features or screens of your app. But if the session, for example, is something that you have to share across multiple features such as profile, user, business logic, then feel free to consider it as a global state in your application. But oftentimes one of the rule of thumb is to limit global states if you can, if only if possible, because probably if you're just building a prototype or for a hackathon project, then I guess it's a bit easier to use global states along all the way now, because you can share it across the entire screens that you're trying to build. But I think rule of thumb, just try to use global state for events and later on we'll try to see in action how you can even actually implement it. Because one of the difficulties in terms of using global state is really, how if you're working with teams, like it will really be difficult to manage the the changes introduced by a lot of developers working in your team. But if you're here, to learn, if I'm going to discuss what is the best state management, then sorry, I will not be discussing what the best state management is because there's no such thing. Like really, it all depends on several factors, such as a lot of several factors such as timelines, deliverables, and priorities. Especially if you're working in a consultancy-based company, then there's really a lot of factors affecting that in terms of generalizing which is the best for everyone, and also comes down with developer experience, developer productivity. If other developers from JavaScript prefer Redux or Mobex, then just have them use Redux or Mobex. They don't have to study block or like provider or other state management if they're comfortable with that. And if you're dealing with some complexity on your project, if you're just probably making a or building a simple app, there's no point like starting right away with block, Redux, or Mobex if you're just want to have a proof of concept for your application. So that's when the time you have to consider choosing tools or state management tools that are fairly simple to use, such as scope model, set state, all the way, or provider. And also, Flutter team, if you try to watch all the videos, you'll probably have some thoughts, or I've seen some answers that they do not recommend any specific or best state management, but rather just a list of options, the things that you can use in your Flutter app. So the challenges. So these challenges are the two most common challenges encountered by beginners or newcomers in Flutter. So one is separating business logic from the UI. So it's very straightforward UIs where we add all the designs, all the widgets that we want to show our user. But for the logic, this is where we handle the domain of the product that we're trying to build. So this is an example of a thing that you shouldn't do in the UI. So it's very tempting, not just like other imperative programming toolkit, like for example, frameworks like Android or iOS. You can probably call something like this. If you've declared a function inside a specific view, you can call get as user is logged in. And if you try calling it on another page, for example, settings page, calling a function from the home page, it's very tempting because it's easy to do, right? So you probably declare an instance of sets homepage state here. You call the state here and get a function. While this works, in reality, if you're dealing with a lot of state changes, this is not really scalable because oftentimes in Flutter, not if if you have watched the stream of Sir Johnny and John yesterday, everything in Flutter is a widget. And if you try to change something, for example, the parent widget tree, if this homepage gets rebuilt, these value here might be inconsistent or might be stale. So oftentimes you don't really do something like this, but rather we have to separate them on separate classes, separate object, or using provider. Later we'll see it in the live coding. And really just putting everything, especially the business logic, the API calls, and the UI simply doesn't scale. So there are times where you have to like put all API calls because it's probably easier to do it. But imagine working with a team of 5 people trying to change that specific homepage, and the conflict and the changes that they might introduce is substantially can destroy what you're trying to do in the future. So try to separate things in a way that it's very specific to the domain that they're trying to do for the product or project that you're building. And you don't know you don't know if there's a bug, how it works, but sometimes it doesn't because it's really difficult to test these applications that adds the UI to or the business logic in the UI. So without tests, it's really makes your app unpredictable in terms of the side effects or the bugs that it probably have if changes made by your team wasn't really tested that much. And another challenge, first one is separating business logic from the UI. Second is exposing a value, often is of an object or instance of an object. So this all comes down with the widget tree. So yesterday you've seen everything in Flutter is a widget. Um, so this one is a very basic app. We have the My App. So as you can see, in the examples of John and Johnny, they have a My App wrapper, material app, and they have a first home property, right on this coincidentally not named home, but it could be anything. And one of the first thing that Flutter developer should know is how you can pass existing data or objects, from one widget to another. So this is just a very basic example of passing data. Oftentimes you'll pass instance of objects such as repositories, data sources, and a lot more custom object that you will be having in your app. But for simplicity, we're just passing is logged in. So in this one, if the user is logged in or not, we will show the appropriate, no, we will show the appropriate UI to the user. And we do that by creating a constructor. So for this constructor, as you can see here, homepage has a constructor is logged in, and that opens up a parameter for the material app so that you can decide whether the user is actually logged in or not logged in. And in the UI of the homepage, you can just simply do something like this. Widget dot is logged in. If it's logged in, I'll be showing this specific text. If it's not logged in, then I'll be showing this specific widget. And this is probably one of the most simplest way how you can pass data through constructors. And what if things get complex? So what if you now have a dashboard and we have 2 pages inside this dashboard? Well, I think this is actually still manageable somehow. But if you try to think of like adding more and more values and data you want to pass in your app, then definitely this process of using constructor on passing instance of objects will not be scalable as you think. So what is the solution for these two challenges, separating business logic and passing instance of object down the widget tree? Well, that all comes down with how you do or manage your or implement your state management. And there are a lot of tools or packages in Flutter that are built to help with implement these state management practices or architecture right out of the bat without you having to implement them on your own from scratch. So one is there are packages such as Mobex, Block, Redux, and there are also packages such as Scope Model and Provider. And there's a lot more. Then you can visit this link later. List of state management approach in Flutter. There are a lot more Flutter can offer you to have as a state management for your app. But if you're in doubt, just use Provider. That's probably what most Flutter developers will tell you if you're not sure on which state management to use, right? Especially if you're just new to Flutter, you don't want to spend your time over engineering things by using a difficult complex state management without actually learning what Flutter is. And just use Provider if you're not sure. And yeah, we go down straight right away to Provider. So well, a while ago we have an example of constructors. Like we're opening up a bunch of properties for us to be able to accept parameters such as is logged in, is verified. But with inherited widget or slash provider, we can do this without having to create constructors. What we can do is we will just declare these values, is logged in, is verified, newsfeed, inside this my app, and we will be providing the values inside the specific widget, and the child widgets such as the dashboard, home, and settings can pretty much use it, right? So this is an example app we're trying to build. So at least for this one, we have separate view models for shop, we have separate view models for the history and the dashboard, and they all have separate functions. And functions in domain and serve as the different files in the project structure of your application. And for this one, no, as you can see here, the shop is highlighted here. This uses the shop view model and retrieves an instance of a cart view model. And the cart view model instance um, is added on top of the My App. So if you want to visualize the changes, every time this shop tries to add, if you try to add item in this cart view model, then this cart view model gets notified. Again, this cart view model gets notified, which in turn, the cart view model tries to receive that specific changes. For example, there's a new item added from the shop list page. And then as a My App holding the specific instance of the object, we'll try to propagate the changes or notify the changes to the screens that subscribes to it. So for example, in the dashboard, I'm not currently listening, but I'm just using the instance of the cart view model. So there's no change in there. But at least for the shop view model, since I need to probably display the number of items I want to show every time I add new item, then this gets rebuilt. And for the history, if the user managed to check out the item, then in the history page, these gets rebuilt as well for it to reflect the latest state or changes in your application. And like what you've learned so far is inherited widget now in a nutshell, in how it solves the constructor hell that you're probably encountering if you're trying to build your first Flutter application. And provider, it's just a wrapper around inherited widget. It makes it easier for you to implement inherited widget. But what is inherited widget really? Like, why use provider over an inherited widget? Well, inherited widget, you can see earlier, and we're just passing the value from My App to homepage directly without constructor, and this is how you implement it. So as you can see here, it's a bit verbose. So for every view model or whatever object you're trying to provide, you always have to have or add these lines of code, which is kind of like a boilerplate for every thing that you're trying to add in your Flutter app. So what provider offer is it creates abstraction and it makes it easier to use inherited widget without sacrificing the performance and like the principle of how inherited widget works, using simplified APIs, simplified method calls. So now provider literally provides access to the object since it's inherited widget under the hood. Then it gives you the access to the objects that are provided on top of the widget tree. For example, My App, down to the homepage, dashboard, or settings. Last but not least is if you're not really sure on what state management is you're going to use, then using provider already helps you scale your Flutter application instead of just not using any state management at all, because you can separate the business logic, which in turn allows you to add more tests in your application and allows your team to add more features along the way. And this is just an example view model. I name it view model, but you can just pretty much name it like dashboard model or any convention that you would like. But for this view model, I only coined view model here, but it's not a convention. Extends change notifier, which allows now these values, if this gets changed, to be published. Yung changes ng values na ito, if yung function na update page index, then these notifies all the subscribers of to this specific value. Later, I'll see it in live coding. So how do you use provider? Well, theoretically, you can just simply provide a value or object instance. So we have the API called multi-provider. So you can see here, there's a multi-provider, and inside the multi-provider, you need to pass a provider that contains the object or value that you want to provide down the widget tree. So right now, as you can see in the homepage, there's no more constructor. What happens is everything in here can be retrieved through the context of the widget. Next is you have to retrieve the instance of the object from the context. And since homepage is part of the entire app, and the entire app holds the instance of the user view model, then you can just simply get the value of user view model through provider.of user view model and pass the context, which is available from the build method of, and also like the context can be available if anywhere if you're using stateful widgets. And in this one, no, it's you can access it directly. So user model.is logged in. I can show whether the user is logged in. I can show whether the user is logged out. And last but not least, since this is probably one of the most important steps, is you just have to use the provider instance of the object that you provided. And one of the bad practice is to create a provider that is primitive. So for this one, I'm creating a value that is false. So the problem with this one, if you're trying to provide a value, and if you try to add another value that, for example, true or false at the same time in this specific providers, then it will be difficult for provider, or it will throw you an provider will throw an error that you cannot retrieve this value because there are multiple types of object that already exist. And imagine having two providers, the other one is true. They are both booleans. So as much as possible, you have to create a custom object, which you'll see later in live coding. As you imagine, if you're retrieving here a bool, then there could be a lot of bool values. But if it's a custom object like the user view model, then it's a lot more simpler for the provider to identify which object are you trying to retrieve from the widget tree. So let's start with a practical example. Let's start with converting a simple Flutter counter app that uses set state that stores the counter value inside the screen to something that uses provider, so that we can achieve these three things that we want to happen in an app. And to begin with, hopefully this works now. Um, right, so Flutter create. So right now I'm just creating a new Flutter app using Flutter create. So I assume hopefully you guys still remember the workshop from yesterday. This is the command Flutter create, and this is just an optional org parameter and the name of the project. Right now it's done. Let me try loading it. Okay, this should. I'll just open up the simulator. Okay. Let me know if you guys have any questions or something. I can answer it while doing live coding. And feel free to interrupt me if you have questions. So it feels a bit more interactive if you want. Okay, so right now I'm still loading the simulator. It's lagging now. Okay. How do I have? So I guess. Okay, so right now. Okay, let me try. So I think the simulator is conflicting with the simultaneous stream. Let me try to use my phone, my real device. Uh, uh, Let me try to. Okay, it's loading. Let me just try to load my phone. I think this is a bit faster, hopefully. Yeah. Okay. So right now, to prove that this is actually the counter app, we should just run the project. And yeah, we're just running the project. It's a bit okay. It's now running. So our goals here, for the first activity that we have for tonight is to convert the existing counter app, which is pretty much a basic. All right, now. Yeah, I think. Yeah. Right now it's running. Okay. Yeah, let's just wait for it to run. And yeah, as mentioned, like one of our goals in Provider, or why we use Provider, is to separate the business logic of our UI or of our app from our UI. The next goal that we want to achieve in this example or in this activity is to identify how can we provide an existing object instance around the widget tree. So we'll also look at, and if we still have extra time for this specific activity, we can check how can we do granular rebuilds. So it's a bit techy term, but yeah, should be fine during the example stage. So right now I think let me just try to post this one. It's still running. So not sure if my questions were from the Google Meet team. Like, yeah, feel free to ask. Like, while we're waiting, maybe we can use some of our time not to be. Yeah. Let me know. Okay, right now it's installing, and this should be running. Okay, so as you can try, I'm tapping this plus sign. So this is probably one of the basic apps, not that you can have inside Flutter. It's out of the box. You can play around with it, and our goal, as mentioned in the activity, is to convert this from a typical set state. So right now it's using set state, and it's storing the value inside this homepage. So we want to move that away from that specific homepage. But first, let's try to move this widget away from some main file. So we can have homepage.dart. What I'm doing right now is to just separate yung homepage that is available from the counter app from first starting to create one. So last thing is to import. So this should still work. Okay, it's still working. And first thing, let's mention the steps not in terms of how you can provide use provider is you have to provide an instance of an object. So before we even do it, meron tayong gagawin na view model. We will name it counter view model. And for this example, like this will be the class. So So right now we're just extending change notifier, which comes right out of the Flutter SDK. This is used again for holding some values and notifying the changes or notifying the widgets with regards to the changes that the specific class holds. So for example, like ano ba yung nasa homepage, this has the int counter. We have to transfer that one. So right now, yung homepage doesn't have a reference to the counter directly. At least doesn't have it implemented, and the function increment counter. Right now, I'm just cutting and pasting it. So we'll just remove set state since we're not going to need it anymore. We're not going to use it in the specific example. So this is the most basic, way, probably most simplest example that you can have, if you're trying to create a simple view model for your application using provider in Flutter SDK. Right now, there's an error. We'll just try to fix it later. Counter. We'll remove the function. Then, okay. So right now it's still just split the screen. Okay, so next thing, now we'll do the first step. You have to provide a value or object instance. So with that, we will be going to the main.dart file. And inside this main.dart file, find the material app. And for the material app, you have to wrap it using multi-provider. Right now, we miss specific parts, so there is an error because we haven't added the dependency with that. So right now, let me just copy this link for provider. Okay. One thing that we forgot to do is to add the package provider in our dependencies. So remove all comments. We'll just add the provider as a dependency. So as mentioned by Sir John yesterday, you're adding HTTP package dito na siya sa dependency sa part ng Powder YAML mo. So right now, I think it's already installed, so we can now import the multi-provider. Provider. And right now, it's asking for some required parameters, which is the provider. So first step, provide the view model. We're not doing something, like something a magic here, but we just added a multi-provider. So nakarap lang siya around the material app and the providers, meaning yung object instance na gusto nating provide down the widget tree. So right now, since gusto natin the entire app has an access or may access sila with the counter view model, then we just need to provide it on top of the material app so that it's part of the routing navigation. So right now, we already declared. That's the first part. Next step is you have to retrieve the instance of that object. So if you're tempted, probably some of you might do something like this. Tapos i-instantiate. But that shouldn't be the case. Because what happens is if we try to use it on a different file, a different class, there will be always a new instance of the current counter view model. So what we're trying to achieve here is we keep the instance of the counter view model that can be used anywhere in your application. So to do that, we should use the provider API, which is counter view model provider.off. So ito yung nakita nyo kanina with the user view model. And just have to explicitly add yung data type. Otherwise, no, there might be throw in some errors or runtime issues with your app. So right now, I am requesting now the provider to get the instance of counter view model from the parent or root widget tree, whoever provides it really. So right now, since I know that this specific part of the context is part of the material app, which has the child homepage, then they have the context can be reused, or the value of the object can be reused through the specific context, because I know that homepage is part of the material app. And later on, we'll try to discuss specific feature specific providing of object. So this one, what we just did is the second step, so provider, which is to retrieve the instance of the object from the context. Last but not the least is the most important part, is to just use the provider value. So for this one, instead of using directly counter, we will now be calling counter. And right now it's not yet working because the function for onPress is empty. So what we can do there is counter view model dot. Right now it doesn't have a function. So right now this one is private. So we should remove the prefix underscore so that we'll have to expose the value. So with this one, we hope the things are changing. But as you can see here, nothing is happening. But if we try to investigate and see if the counter app is changing inside the view model, so it's not inside the screen, it's changing, like 5, 6, 7, but it's not reflecting the changes to UI. So the missing part here is to add notify listeners. To refresh the app, let me just try to bring back the print item. Let me just try to be more clear here. Okay, so every time I try to click this, now the changes are reflected both on the view model and the screen, which is the homepage of your application. And one of the things that you can do in provider is you can do granular rebuilds as well. So right now, we have accomplished two of our main goals, which is to separate the business logic and provide an instance of an object down the widget tree, which is very important because you don't want to create object instance again and again. And if you want to share it, it will be a lot difficult. So at least for this one, we've already accomplished separating business logic and providing instance of object. Right now, we want to do granular rebuilds. But what is granular rebuilds? Well, to start off, let's see how our screen is actually rebuilding. So I am currently rebuilding. And for this one, every time I try to tap add, the entire screen, including the scaffold, the app bar, the center, all of these are getting rebuilt. Although they are not, it's not meant to be fast, it's meant to be fast naman. You're still wasting resources somehow, because if you're working on a real app, you'll probably be working on a complex app that has filtering image or showing some video. And if you don't want other parts of your app to rebuild, and you just want your text specifically to change and react to changes that is introduced in this view model, we can use the consumer API from provider. But to start off, we just need to disable listen flag. So for the listen flag, what it does is if I try to restart the app, it won't reflect the changes anymore, because I have told provider that I don't need to listen so changes that this counter view model has to offer. So kahit may nagbago dito sa counter view model, if I don't if I explicitly tell yung provider na I just want the object instance, I don't want to listen to the value changes, then add this. And next thing you can do is to use the actual consumer widget. What it does is it's granular in a way, no, that you can only rebuild specific parts of your app instead of rebuilding the entire app, which in turn provides some sort of performance gain. Let me just try to add the boilerplate here. Okay, so let's try to see if the changes are reflected. So right now, no, as you noticed earlier, no, hindi na nagre-rebuild yung screen natin because it's currently set to false. So hopefully, no, since we are now using consumer, this specific part of the application should rebuild. Now, while others like text, the label and the center will not rebuild, but only this part of the application. So try to see how it's working. And if you want to proof, no, that it's actually rebuilding and not tricking you with set state or something, let me check and add some print line here. So we have a print line here. No, I'm currently rebuilding, but it's not showing. But with this one, let's try to add inside. So right now, let me just say this. Restart the app. So right now, you can see that the build method, yung pinaka-parent, is only called once, but in succeeding calls is the changes only happens in the specific part of your app, which is a consumer, which is part of the Flutter or provider SDK. So right now, that's the granular rebuild. So it's not nothing special. No, it's not like a rocket science. It's just that it allows you to specifically, like create small subsets of your application that needs to rebuild while maintaining some performance gains, on ensuring that other parts of your app don't get rebuilt if they don't need to, right? So that's what you get for granular rebuilds, performance gains, and for the counter app is a very basic app. We try to see if we can finish along with a complex app, which uses a lot of providers in e-commerce. So if you probably attended Hackfest, I already shared some of these parts as well, not in that specific event. So yeah, but right now we'll just try to run this. So waiting game again. We have to run the app. Mm-hmm. Oh, there's another factor around P. Okay. Let me know if you guys have any questions. I'm happy to answer it. Yeah. So far what we did is we've converted an existing counter app from using a very basic set state to now using provider. So hopefully on this next example, we'll be able to discuss how we can use provider, for handling a complex business logic such as API calls or providing feature level scope for the provider that we're trying to uh, give down to the children of our root widget. So this example, as you can see here, shop view model can only be accessed as a shop feature, and shop history view model can only be accessed as a history feature. And if you try to access it as a dashboard or in shop view model as a dashboard, it will throw an error because providing object instances comes from from top to bottom, not from like from the very bottom upward. So that's what you have to bear in mind. So right now it's still building. So all right, so I think it's done. So again, our goals here is to check, how can we handle complex business logic, provide feature-specific level for the project, and shared state, across multiple features. So for the shared state across multiple features, as you can see here, these are all part of a single dashboard page, which contains two pages. So if you're familiar already with Flutter, you know that there is a widget called, oh, it's not moving. The circular icon of macOS. Okay. So right now, if you're already familiar with Flutter, there is this widget called page view. And in this page view, we have two sub pages, which is the shop and the shop history. So what our app does is every time you try to add item to the cart, it updates the specific value in the app bar, right? So if you try to subtract the item, hopefully hindi kayo nabiktima ng 12-12, no? Like, very tempting, 12-12. But hopefully you guys are safe on it. Yeah, I don't know, game victim. I also try to, you can also remove items from the cart and try to remove items. It should reflect the changes if you have removed the item. And also with this one, since we only have 3 cart items, and once we try to press this card, this should be pressed. So for some reason, it's lagging a bit. It's last P, so we don't have 12-12 right now. It's 13, but for some reason, it's not working. So the card is empty. So confirm. If we try to confirm, the items should be already on the history page. So right now, everything here is done locally. We're not calling actual API call, but rather, like actually just calling execs or storing them locally in our app. So what we want to achieve here is to, let me just try to, in a new terminal here, we will try to break, we'll try to break yung app. What's the difference? Okay, enable R8 stash. It's stash pop. So right now, I'm converting my app dun sa part na sira siya. So right now, sirain natin yung app. Sa part na wala siyang dinidisplay na test view. Mark as safe daw siya. Nasa Google Meet from 12-12. So right now, we're not displaying anything, no shop item found. And one of our goals here is to mock how we do API calls of Flutter app. Right now, since I've mentioned earlier, we're not supposed to call actual network call. We can just simply fake or add mock data inside the shop view model. So again, yung shop view model, this is by convention, but it's not a standard way of naming your or handling your business logic. It could be model, it can be notifier. It depends on your team. It's just that another convention that I follow from on doing my projects. So the first step now is to work on the view model. So this is, again, view model is part of the business logic of our application. And with this one, what we just did is we've added a fake list of items, PS5, Switch V2, and PSP. Not sure if there's still a PSP on the market, but we just added the mock shop items here. And these mock shop items here is supposed to be coming from the API. And now instead of you doing this directly on the widget tree, you can just simply separate it on a separate business logic file, which is a view model. And you also have a function get items. What it does is it fakes the API call and assigns the value to the shop items. And shop items is ito yung this is where the UI is supposed to get all the items that is going to be displayed. It's a screen. So right now, if I start, so right now there's nothing happening because we haven't called the function. So right now we'll just add it here, shop view model, get items, and this at post frame callback here is just a basic way of telling after the widget has been loaded, I want to retrieve all the items. But you can also do it without this specific call. But yeah, don't focus yourself on that one, but on this one, shop view model get items. And right now, if you try to restart again, nothing's happening because we are just simply displaying this text, right? So one of the things that we can do there is to replace the child of the container from a center to showing the shop list. So in shop list is there's a pretty straightforward list of items. There's also declared data. So gumagamit siya ng list view. Yeah, pero like we shouldn't. Yeah, I'll probably should just share the code with you how you can implement list view. But our goal here is to really just show not how provider is working closely when you want to display list of items coming from the API. So with this one, ang first condition na gusto nating malaman from the view model is if we should show yung shop items. So typically, like ang ginagawa natin dito is there is items is greater than 0, items is not empty, pwede yung ganyan. Pero since you want to separate really every business logic that you want to do in your app, then you can just simply migrate yung show items logic sa mismong provider. So yung logic natin dyan is if shop item is not equal to null and if it's not empty, then that should be true. So again, yung business logic natin is nasa view model and wala sa UI. So that's a cool thing because it makes it easier for you now to test if there's an item, this should be true. If there's no item, this should be false. So you can test it independently away from the UI. So that's the first goal, and that we want for this activity. Handling complex object, you can do API calls directly in the business logic of your application, which is right now just using provider and view model. Next is provide feature-specific scope for the project. So at least for the charts, nakita niyo naman kanina, we have a chart that looks something like this. So since shop view model only needs to be accessible dito sa shop, then it makes sense na provide mo lang siya on top of it instead of providing it globally sa app. So right now, I'm just providing shop view model sa taas nung shop page. So the difference with this one, yung local tas global state, is that if you need shop view model sa shop history, pero ganito yung setup, you will not be able to access it. So let's try to prove it, Let's try to visit shop history. Tapos try daw natin i-access si shop view model, which is not provided for this specific object or specific page. So remember, nasa shop history tayo pero we're trying to retrieve yung instance ni shop view model. So let's try to restart. Okay. So this should restart the application. And we try to open history page. It should show an error, right? So right now you will be receiving an error, could not find the correct provider, shop view model above shop history, because wala naman talaga siya sa above, it's beside, like if you're trying to look at the specific example na nasa isang page view sila, so shop is not on top of shop history is not on top of shop page, but rather they reside together on the specific level sa dashboard natin. So that's, you only do this if you want to keep things very specific to the feature. So this is very recommended because, again, as mentioned earlier, pag global state lagi, it'll be difficult for your team and especially for you to review all the changes. Now, if, for example, yung other dev team tries to change something sa ganitong global na view model, and marami kayong nag-change dun ng specific value dun sa specific screen na yon, then I think even if na-review yun na maayos, may chance pa rin na maging unpredictable yung side effects kasi like there are a lot of edge cases talaga in terms of building a solid Flutter application. So, bumagsak na yung camera ko. Right, so okay. Last goal natin for tonight is to shared state across multiple features. So I guess this is you've already seen the way ng pag-provide natin kay cart view model. So yung cart view model, kung titingnan nyo si shop history, may access siya kay cart view model. Dito ina-access natin siya provider.auth. It's not opening. Si shop page, ina-access din natin siya for cart view model. Since sa shop, dito tayo nag-add ng items. So, as you can see here, dito tayo nag-add. So, tinatawag natin yung cart view model. And dito, yung nasa action bar, yan yung dashboard natin, which contains yung listeners dun sa app bar. So as you can see here, merong text dito na cart label. For example, it's where ow. This should change to ow. But since we're listening to cart label, meaning this cart label again, yung logic hina-handle natin ulit sa cart view model instead of handling it directly sa UI. So if cart count is 0, you should show a cart is empty. Tapos i-disable mo siya. Pero if may laman yung cart natin, dapat i-update niya yung cart label. So that's a cool thing about a provider. You can just let your business logic worry on how a string should be shown, whether the button should be shown, whether the list should be shown. What the benefit that you're getting here is really having the domain of your app get tested, get easily be maintained in the future if you want to scale your project and use a much more complex state management in the future. I think this is the first step really for that goal. So again, just to wrap up, echoing the best state management, there's really no best state management. Just have to identify what you need and what you have. So if you have a small team, if you have a simple project, and just start with provider or just start with a very basic state management out there. You don't have to necessarily start with block or Redux because all of us use it. Next is choose what works best for your team. So you are not the only developer in the team, so consider the experience that your team have. If it's an intern, if it's a junior developer, if he is new to Flutter development, you should respect and consider what works for everyone. Call it like an average of average skill set of everyone. So it makes it easier for you to work with them, and then at the same time you'll get things done really, instead of you trying to suggest a specific overcomplicated state management and you guys end up not doing anything at all. I think one of the most important thing here is to just focus on having the right state management that works best for your team. Okay, it's not. Last but not least is to be open. For some reason, like it's not moving sa slide ko. So live editing. Last but not least, is just to be. If for some reason hindi siya mabasa sa slides, be open, and if there's a new state management, feel free to try it and use it. Feel free to try it and try to examine if this works best for your team or not, or if it's not supposed to be something to replace your current tech stack or something. So just be open, or don't open or give too much criticism on the existing tools out there. or rather, said support them. Just be open. If they suggest it's a new state management tool, try it out. It's not you will probably gain something, and you will not lose anything. If you're just trying things out on what works best. So yeah, I'm open for questions and hope you guys enjoyed the workshop. Let me just.
For that wonderful explanation on and a wonderful tour on how state management works with Flutter, and particularly by using Provider. It's a wonderful tool. If I had known of that tool in my early minor Flutter development days, maybe I would have been faster in developing my first Flutter app. So yeah, that was knowing how to use the consumer function of provider. It made me think of the things that I could have changed in my application and how it could have been better. Like not just code wise, but really the development speed. I could have been better overall. So yeah, thank you for giving that wonderful insight. Now, guys, if you have any questions, please send it on the chat, or you could just interrupt me using your mics. That would be, those would be gladly appreciated. So yeah, questions? Oh, we got one here from Joey. Joey says, was there something you wish you knew before that might have made things easier now when it comes to state management and or Flutter? Any advice for beginners based on your experiences?
This is a very interesting question. At least one of the things that I wish I knew, probably, I think really just have to, um, I think, familiarize yourself on which state management to use. Like, as I start building Flutter apps as well, like I immediately started with Block as in from scratch, Block from scratch. So that immediately took a toll of my time, like learning what Block is instead of actually learning what Flutter can offer. So I guess instead of trying to over engineer things in your app, just try to start small, and if it works, if it works as a POC or a prototype, that's when you have to decide which is better, really. So start small and don't have to overcomplicate things out in Flutter.
Okay, thank you for that wonderful answer, Sir Joshua. So yeah, don't overcomplicate things. Start simple. That's it. Okay. Uh, any more questions, guys? Keep them coming.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Hi, good evening. Hello.
My only question is, I'm curious about what was your very first Flutter app project was.
Yeah, I think my first Flutter project, it's actually part of the company that I've worked on from the past. So it's at freelancer.com. It's kind of like an experimental project, really. So your existing code base namin is written sa code base ng Android native and native iOS. And our goal there as part of the Flutter project is to add new features written in Flutter. So yeah, that's actually a bit experimental at the time, but it's really fun. And fun fact, like in 1 hour, I'll be giving this a talk regarding that. So yeah. So yeah, it's part of the
Yeah.
company that I work on. But for side projects, yeah, like I have some side projects, but for companies, not for personal projects. Do have some repositories for an example project apps that I have made. You visit on my GitHub page. I mostly work for as a consultant, and yeah, so yeah, for as a Flutter dev.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, guys, for those of you who want to catch on Sir Joshua's stream, next stream, he'll be attending the SC Indies event, right, sir?
Yes,
So
it's
yeah,
in the
if you
6
want
p.m.
to,
as well.
6 p.m. India time. So yeah, if you want to catch on to that, there you go. I'll send out that information for you. So we have one here from Gab. Gab says, "How's the state of the demand for Flutter developers in the industry right now, especially in the Philippines? Is there a long-term benefit for learning this, or is Flutter just a trend that will not endure the test of time?" Ooh, spicy.
Spicy.
Okay. Okay.
At least, no, like in the community, we're trying to still build the, the traction for to have additional Flutter developers, the community. That's why we volunteer ourselves, not to give workshops, give talks at events, so that people are aware and companies are aware, that Flutter actually exists, and a lot of developers are familiar with it in the Philippines. And in terms of the demand, like, you can join our group, flutter.ph. You can join a Facebook group. Almost every other day, there are new job posts, from companies, even based in Germany, based in the US. Even if it's not in the Philippines, you can work abroad using the Flutter skill sets that you have acquired. And the good thing is, we're just working here in the Philippines. Right now, I'm working for a company based in US, but I'm here in the Philippines, so I still enjoy my time spending my time with my family, at the same time, earning a um, good income, at least, to support the things I want to buy, or things I want to support for my family. So maybe, at least for the Philippines, we're still growing it, but you can work for companies abroad that uses Flutter. Is there a long term benefit for this one? Yes, definitely. Like, just like any other technologies out there, React, Angular, they come and go, and other technologies such as Xamarin, or technologies such as, even the Visual Basic, technologies come and go. The important part is that you learn the concepts by heart, and not just by memorizing the code. So if you're familiar how you can implement state management in Flutter, pretty much you'll have this mindset, or you have this set of principles that you can apply as well on other languages such as React or Angular, because they pretty much work the same, except that they use different APIs, different function names. So, learn the code by heart, and not just by merely memorizing uh, the exact methods that I've shown you a while ago, but no, by heart and by the principles that is behind it. Last but not least is Flutter just a trend that will endure the test of time? So definitely, I can't speak for Google. I am not speaking on behalf of Google, but I can assure you that Flutter will stay for here, at least for a while, because you've seen some latest posts recently that Google will be releasing so soon the Fuchsia OS for multiple hardware devices that supports Linux kernel, and that's really kind of like a bit exciting, because with that specific operating system, you can run your existing apps in Flutter to the Fuchsia OS. So which gives you good start, like, because Dart files, Flutter files are already native to that specific OS, which in turn, makes your app a bit run faster on top of that platform. So definitely, it's not just not for a short time. Flutter will stay here for a longer period of time.
Yeah, I agree with you, sir, on that last bit. Yeah, I don't think Flutter will die anytime soon, because I can't think of anything like Flutter as a tool. Yeah, like, it's so very multi-platform, and it's so very convenient for developers, and it incentivizes companies to have it as a platform for their services, because it is multi-platform. It is much more convenient. They can serve a wide audience. So I don't personally think that Flutter will die anytime soon. Yeah, and I am sure, on my personal opinion, I am sure that it will endure the test of time. And it's also, and thinking about the benefits, it's a good thing to have that mindset of just retaining the information by heart and carrying it, and uh, deriving from it and applying it to other aspects of development, that is the true benefit of it. Now, that is the true benefit of it. If you think about it like that, it's very comforting on your end, because you know that you're not wasting your time and you are doing it for your own growth. So yeah, keep those questions coming, guys. Are there any more?
Hello.
So before I'll say my question, I just want to say
Mhm.
that uh, it's been a pleasure to work with you since I've worked with the project last time. I think it was Rapid Pass. I think
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
I worked with the Flutter app as well, and it's nice to see
Yeah.
that I've talked with one of the legends of Flutter
Yes.
beyond the issue trackers of GitLab. But here's my question. So,
Mhm.
um, from all the projects you've created, is a provider enough for the needs of that said projects?
Yeah, like as mentioned earlier, there are a lot of factors, no, affecting. First of all, like thank you as well, now for having the chance to, as as an opportunity as well to work with you on that rapid pass. And yeah, to answer your question, if is provider actually going to be, no, can be used, no, solely for all of the projects that I work on, I guess not, because provider, I mean, choosing a state management really depends on multiple factors. So right now I'm working on, right, previously on freelancer.com I work with a very large team, 14 engineers. Right now I'm working on a very small team, like under 5 engineers. So we use different state management. Although we use provider, we are using Mobex on top of it. So what makes it, like, what makes it different is that provider is not really first hand, built to be used as state management tool, but rather, to provide instance of an object down from the root tree to the widget tree. So initially, like, the description of provider is a mixture between dependency injection and state management tool. So it's not the only options that you have, for example, on a large project. But yeah, it's a good state management tool that you can use for a large project. But if you really want to take it forward, or take leap forward, you should start looking at Mobex, Block, or Redux, because they can pretty much help you a bit further on how you deal with the states of your app. So at least for my experience, I've used other state management tools for the project I'm working on. So especially right now, I'm using Mobex on top of Provider, and yeah.
From Sir Joshua. So yeah, if you have, yeah. By the way, Ned, we're so proud of you. Tatak UIC, let's go. Woo.
All right.
Ned, see, Ned is just a first year for now, but he's already had so much experience, and it's so inspiring to have a fellow schoolmate like you, Ned. So yeah, keep on growing. Let's grow together. Let's go. Uh, if you have any more questions, guys, don't hesitate. Please send it in the. Do you guys hear that?
It's raining on your end.
Don't hesitate to send it on the chat or open your mics. Yeah,
Yeah,
if
I
you
think
don't have
I
any more.
can. Yeah, I think I can say for five more minutes if you guys have questions.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe if there's nobody else in the chat, sir, my
Hmm.
personal question is that
Hmm.
same with yesterday from same thing I asked with Sir Jan and Sir Joni yesterday. Are
Hmm.
there any notable projects you've built with Flutter that you can share with us?
Um, right now, you can probably download the Freelancer Android app in the Play Store, and you can visit the portfolio section for that specific app. At least for the project I'm working on, we will be launching in January. So it's a startup company. But
Ooh.
I don't think I'm allowed to share the UIs of that one.
Yeah.
But at least for the personal projects, like I'll share the link later for all the projects that I've built, UI, beautiful UIs. Not sure if I can access it here. Let me try.
Okay.
Yeah, right now it's not loading. Yeah, but at least what I consider notable project that I've done for quite a while now are the packages on my PubDev account, and yeah, the actual app that I'm building right now, because I pioneered that specific application. It's a banking application, by the way, and hopefully you guys will be able to see it next month. But it's on the US. It's on the US market. But I'll probably share it. Me and Tina Adams of Flutter PH. So yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, as mentioned by Ned, like I've contributed to a lot of open source projects, also in a lot of community projects like Rapid Pass. I'm the co-maintainer for that one. And yeah, but for the notable project, right now it's on the company one, so startup.
Okay. So to be clear, you can't share any information about that, right? So
I don't think so, yeah, because but I think you can. I don't think like you can. Right now, the referral app for our company is actually written by us, someone else. But yeah, please, for the actual app,
okay.
we'll be soon launching it. um,
Okay. Okay.
but maybe they. Mhm. Yeah. All right.
So yeah, as you've heard, sir, very inspiring. So yeah, we have fellows here who watched the K drama startup, and and as you've heard, Sir Joshua is working on a startup on his own. So yeah, very inspiring, sir, and also very inspiring that with Flutter you can still be very productive, and you can still have that job that you want even though you're here in the Philippines. You can have that remote job you want and still earn significant amounts. So yeah, oh yeah, we have a key question here. Have you watched Startup, sir?
Probably after the talk this one, after the next talk. I don't find the time
Yeah, you
recently,
heard
so
that.
yeah, maybe next week I find the time.
Okay, no spoilers, guys. No spoilers. Okay. Once again, thank you so much, Sir Joshua de Guzman. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Joshua de Guzman, lead of Flutter Philippines. Clap, 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 clap. Very good, very good. Very wonderful lecture. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
that, sir. Thank you for accepting our invitation once again here in DSUIC. Thank you for accepting it as an organization as a whole, as being Flutter Philippines. So yeah, wonderful honor to have you here. And now, guys, let us end this stream, and by saying that this has been the Flutter Study Jams.